All right, so in this week's lesson, you're going to learn how to play a 1-4-5 blues out of the C position. And so this is, I'm talking the C.A.G.E.D system here, and this is non-conventional territory for guitar players. A lot of times as guitar players, when it comes to the blues, we tend to play out of the E shape or the A shape. At least I do. That's where that would be my default position to play out of. But this C position for blues is a lot of cool ideas that you can get out of this. And we're going to connect minor pentatonic scale pattern 3 to this position. So once you can see how that scale pattern matches with this chord shape, this will unlock a whole bunch of new ideas. At least I hope it does for you. And we're also going to look at overlapping the minor and major pentatonic scale in this area. So a lot of cool stuff that we're going to talk through. So everything that I play in the intro, that little composition, I've got that tabbed out. If you'd like to get that tab PDF file, which we're going to be talking through, by the way, as we get into this video, but if you want the PDF file and also the on-screen tab viewer, which has tab and video on the screen at the same time, you can loop sections. There's no talking in it, so it's just the notes to play. But if you want that material, you can get those extras for this lesson by going to activemelody.com and doing a search for ML129. Okay, so we're going to be playing in the key of E. And if I were to say to you, let's play a 1-4-5 blues in the key of E. So it's going to be E, A, and B. Those are going to be our chords. Most of us would start down here. We'd be doing E stuff down here. Little licks and, you know, chord shapes and stuff down here. But we're going to be up here. We're going to be in this position. And we're going to be playing our 1 chord here, our 4 chord here, and our 5 chord here. So we're going to stay in the same neighborhood with these chords, but that's where we're going to be. So we're going to start off, when I said we're playing out of the C shape, this is what I mean by that. So my E chord, if I were to play my E chord using the C shape, it would look like this. Now don't worry, we're not going to be doing this. I'm just showing you what it would look like. So these 3 fingers, my middle, ring, and pinky, are making the C shape. The same shape that you'd make if you're playing a C chord in first position. That's what I mean by the C shape. That's what the C.A.G.E.D system's all about. It's taking those 5 chords from first position and repurposing them all over the fretboard. And what you want to do is learn chords and then scale positions, how they all connect into these shapes. Once you can see that, it's like that is the fretboard. I'm telling you, there's not a better system. Anyway, so we're not going to be playing an E chord. We're going to actually be playing an E7. Same for the A chord, same for the B chord. So it'll be E7, A7, and B7. And that's just something you do in the blues. You play the dominant 7 versions of chords and it blueses it up. So to play an E7 chord up here is actually pretty easy. We're going to start with our C7 down in first position. We're going to take this shape. So if I played my C chord, and then I took my pinky and put it on the 3rd fret, 3rd string, and played the middle 4 strings, it would sound like that. That's a C7. Now my ring finger is playing this 3rd fret, 5th string. That's a C note. So that means if I were to play with that same finger up here on the 7th fret, that's an E note. So I could take that same shape then and play an E7 chord using that C7 shape. So that's my 1 chord. So the 4 chord in this would be an A or an A7. So here's how we're going to do it. So I have to ask myself, where's my nearest A to this? And the answer is right here. It's an A chord using the E shape. If I lift my pinky, I've got that flat 7 in there. Now watch this. This is where this gets cool. This will be a light bulb for some of you. If I played strings 4, 3, and 2 from this chord shape that I'm making, listen to those notes. Now if I were to play just those notes, look at the shape I'm making. There's the notes. This is the same as my D chord in first position. When I realized this was like a game changer for me. It's a simple idea, just a little chord shape, but I use this all the time. So if I take my D chord shape and I put my middle finger now on the 5th fret, 2nd string, so everything's bumped up a set of strings, and you're playing strings 4, 3, and 2, I'm playing an A7. Now there's not an A note in that. I've got my 5th of my chord, I've got the 3rd of my chord, I've got the flat 7 of my chord. I don't have the root, but I've got enough of that chord to spell out the sound of an A7. Look at how neat and compact everything is getting. We have our 1 chord, which you can slide into these chords too, by the way. There's my 1 chord, there's my 4 chord. Now my 5 chord is in the same area, or I ask myself, where would that be? Where would my B chord be here? I don't want to come up here, it's jumping too high. Well, there's my B note, so if I were to play that with my pinky and then just bar here on the 4th fret, That's a B chord using the G shape, the top part of the G shape. And instead of me playing the 7th fret first string, if I were to play the 5th fret first string, I'm playing, you can hear it, it's a B7. So let's review these chord voicings. We have our 1 chord, which is our E, and then right here we've got our 4 chord, which is our A7, and then right here you've got your 5 chord, which is your B7. Now the fact that I'm saying E7, A7, those almost, the labels don't matter at some point. That's where I want you to get, where you could just drop in anywhere. I don't even have to look, and I can just feel my way to the 4 chord based on where I'm at, and feel my way to the 5 chord. That is where I'm at mentally. So I don't even care if it's called an A7 or a B7. It's just, I know where it is in relation to the root chord. Once I get that root chord set up, the rest of it is all locked together. They're all linked. They're connective tissue, I guess. That's the best way to say it. So now we're going to look at our E minor pentatonic scale and how it relates to where we are. And so that would be pattern 3 of my minor pentatonic scale. So my E minor pentatonic scale pattern 3 in this position, and I like to start it with this E note here. It looks like this. There's the top 2 strings. And then we'll come down to the 3rd string and play 7th fret, 4th fret. Then we'll come down to the 4th string and play 7, 5. We'll do the same thing on the 5th string and the same thing on the 6th string. So all together then we have, that's my E minor pentatonic scale, pattern 3. And see where it is in relation to this chord shape. Notice when I'm playing that, I've got my index finger on that 5th fret 2nd string. I can already jump into licks there. Right? Just connect that in your mind. In fact, grab your guitar and just experiment with that. Don't get any further. Just play that shape, that chord shape, which is like your C7 shape. We're playing an E7 in this position. And play that chord. All right, so I just want to show you a few more notes that you can add to that minor pentatonic scale to give you a few more variables. So when we were playing our E minor pentatonic scale, pattern 3, on the 2nd string, we went from the 8th fret down to the 5th fret. We skipped 2 frets. So let's add the 7th fret. So we're going to go 8, 7, 5. Notice my fingers, pinky, ring, index. We're going to do that same thing on the 3rd string. So on the 3rd string, when we were playing our E minor pentatonic scale, we went 7 down to 4, right? So, but now we're going to go 7, 6, 4. So you can see we're pinky, ring, index again. So we've got these 2 extra notes that we just added are notes from our major pentatonic scale. So now if we want to blend our major and minor in this neighborhood, I've got the tools to do that. I've got the variables. There's my minor, real bluesy, but you can hear that major sound. So just adding those 2 notes can give you a whole bunch of different ideas for coloring your sound. The only other note I want to show you in relation to your minor pentatonic scale is the blue note. So remember on strings 6, 5, and 4, we had that little box there between the 5th fret and the 7th fret. Once we get to the 4th string, on that 7th fret, I can slide up 1 fret to the 8th fret. That's the blue note. So if I'm playing that note with my minor pentatonic scale, I'm actually playing the blues scale. The blues scale is a 6-note scale that includes this note. But what I like about this note, I can get this real bluesy, and I just slide into it. I don't even, you can bend if you want to do that. It's kind of hard to bend on that 4th string. I like to just slide into it. So anyway, you're going to hear that as we get into this little lead part, but that's what that note is. It's the blue note. So you've got your minor pentatonic scale with 2 notes from your major pentatonic scale, if you want to use those, which we will, and we'll be playing some licks with that blue note as well. All right, so I started this composition with the 5 chord, which is our B7, and I started it here. And this is how I'm playing it, right? As we've discussed, that is another voicing for a B7, and I slid into it. So I use my pinky just as an embellishment to come up and hit this B note here on the 7th fret 1st string. So So that's the 5 chord. Then I played the 4 chord, and check it out. It's that same little D shape that we talked about. So that is going to be my A7. B7, A7. And then I threw in a lick. So check this lick. It's going to be a combination of minor and major pentatonic scale. All the stuff we've talked about really rooted around this minor pentatonic scale pattern 3. You can see it starts with minor and then goes major. That's that major note we added, that 7th fret, 2nd string. And then back into minor, and then a slide from that blue note on that 4th string, going from the 8th fret to the 7th fret. Walked all the way down to the 7th fret, 5th string. So, isn't that cool? But that lick lives, in my mind, off of this chord shape. And then for the turnaround, we'll do some harmonized thirds. And these are coming off of chord shapes. So I'm thinking about my E chord here using that D shape, and then I'm thinking about my E chord up here. And really there's this little connective lick that you can do. If you play the top 2 strings out of this, which would be 4th fret, 1st string, 5th fret, 2nd string, and then you change the shape. So now my ring finger's on the 7th fret, 2nd string, my index is on the 5th fret, 1st string. So what you do is you go from this shape, keep going up to here, right? Because there's my E chord. So I just connected my E triad here to my E triad here. However, when I played it, I went like this and walked back down. That's just something I got from Chet Atkins years ago. Instead of going up to where you would think you would go, you just go back. That kind of blueses it up, doing that little chromatic move there. But that's what I'm playing for the turnaround. So after that little harmony part, I went back into my B7 there. Then we're ready for the 1 chord, and I'm just sliding into it like that. That's that E7 chord using the C7 shape, sliding into it and then playing a lick. So after the chord, I played. That lick is just minor pentatonic scale pattern 3. Then we go to the 4 chord, and I'm playing that A7 using that D shape that I showed you. And then I played a lick which is walking right down that minor pentatonic scale pattern 3, but throwing in some of those major notes that I showed you. So let me do that slowly. I love the sound of that, is coming down to this E note down here and then hitting that same note an octave higher on the 5th fret, 2nd string. And those are just 2 notes right inside of this chord shape. So it makes it easy. You don't even have to think about it. You can really just make the chord. So my fingers just fall into place to make that chord. And then minor pentatonic scale pattern 3 using these low notes out of the box shapes. So what I'm doing is I'm sliding from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 6th string, and then walking up chromatically on that 5th string. So keep in mind, you can do the chromatic move on each one of these. You can do that anytime you've got two notes in a scale and you've got a fret in between. You can always play that note as a passing tone. And then I came back up to that higher octave of that E. Now watch this. I did that to represent my E7, and that's just another little blues idea that I've learned through the years, is playing this harmonized 6 here. And these are 2 notes out of this E7 chord using the C7 shape, the 4th string and the 2nd string. I know that I can take that, just those 2 notes, and walk them down 2 frets, and it'll sound like I'm playing an E7. Well, I kind of am actually, because this note is my flat 7. Like if I'm playing an E7, that's the note, right? And then I've got a little harmony for it. So just remember that if you like the sound of that, you can always go down 2 frets from your root. There's my root, there's my flat 7. If I go down 1, that's my major 7. So go down 2 and it's your flat 7. So now the song goes to the A, which is our 4 chord, and I just slid into it, that A7 triad that I showed you. And then watch this. This little lick is coming right out of that minor pentatonic scale pattern 3. And then I followed that up with a lick, which is just walking up and down the minor pentatonic scale. And so that's minor pentatonic scale pattern 3, just going up it. Little hammer on. And then there's this one note. That one little extra note there. You should be able to pause this video and figure out what is that note. We've actually talked about it. I didn't show you how to do it here. I showed you how to do it here. Right? That's your blue note. It's just the blue note in another octave. So walking right down minor pentatonic scale pattern 3. And once I came down to this E note here, the 7th fret 5th string, I went, and look at what my left hand is doing. I'm just making the chord. I'm just playing the E7 chord. I'm picking the notes out of it. So I'm playing 5, 2, back to 5, and then 3, 2. Those are the string numbers. And then I went kind of a Robert Johnson thing where you take the chord, slide it down a half step, and then back up 1. Then the song goes to the 5 chord, which is our B, and I went like this. Now you know what this is, right? But this, we did not talk about, but we kind of did in a different octave. So what I'm doing is I'm walking up to this note, which is the flat 7 of my B chord. And I'm walking up chromatically, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then once I play this 7th fret 4th string, I'm going to go ahead and bar strings 1, 2, and 3 on the 4th fret. Now when I play this, that's a B7. That's another voicing for it. So I'm thinking about my G shape at this point because there's my B chord, there's my B7 that we talked about. I know I've got another B7 here. It's just another flat 7. See, there's the flat 7 we talked about. This is just another one that's an octave lower. So I want you to connect that in your mind. Hopefully walk away, if nothing else, just get this idea off of this out of this chord shape. You've got a 7 here and a 7 here. And I love the sound of this. I use this one quite a bit. So I just walked up to it chromatically. And then hit the top part of it. Then the song goes back to the 4 chord, like we did before, and then I'm gonna go up and down the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 3. With that slide from the blue note. So isn't that just a cool little lick? And these are probably licks that you're maybe not used to because we don't play out of pattern 3 that often. At least I don't talk about it that often. I do it when I'm improvising. but it's just not, it's not a go-to, it's not a starting point for me. It's something I usually do passing through to something else. And then after that, I threw in a little turnaround again. And this is coming out of this E7 chord here, using the C7 shape. If I'm playing strings 4 and 2, just like we did before when we walked down to the flat 7, we're going to do the same kind of thing, where we play strings 4 and 2, and then we're coming up to the 7th fret and play strings 4 and 2. And then watch this, we're going to go up one more fret, then back, and then back to our starting point. That's almost exactly the same thing we did for the turnaround the first time. It's just a different sound of it. And then I went to end it and landed on an E9 chord. And so that E9 chord looks like this. And what I'm doing is I'm barring the first 2 strings with my pinky there. So these 3 fingers are making like the D7 shape, and then my pinky grabs strings 1 and 2. But I started it a half step up, and I can hit that E9 chord. You can hit your low open E if you want. Now you can do all of this in any key. You just need to find your starting note on the 5th string. So if you wanted to do this in the key of D, you say, where's your D note on the 5th string? Oh, it's here. Well, I'll put my ring finger there. So that means this is my 1 chord. So I could do everything we just did. Here's the 5, the 4. So you can see how this stuff is very easily transposed and played in any key. No open strings. It's one of the beauties of playing closed position like this. All right, remember, if I buzz through this too quickly, you do have access to the PDF file and also the on-screen tab viewer. That's a great way to refresh and kind of go back through and learn how to play everything. You can slow it down and set your own pace if you want to learn it that way. Hopefully you picked up a few ideas. Leave a comment and let me know below if any of this has been a breakthrough. I know it's not anything revolutionary in terms of song structure, it's just a 1-4-5, but if you're looking at something different than you have before, I'd appreciate if you let me know. It always helps me know what's resonating and what isn't. If you got questions about anything, leave those too. I will read through all of them. All right, we'll see you next week for something new.